Good morning. Let me know when we have people in the chat. I'm just going to prepare my paints. This is going to be a quick wet blending tutorial. If any of you don't follow us on Instagram, I really recommend it because it's somewhere that we use frequently for polls and questions and just to get, viewer opinions in general. So what we're going to do though is we're just going to go quickly through the process of wet blending, which I think people find perhaps more intimidating than is necessary. Good evening, Daryl. How are you doing? How's my sound quality? Okay. Hello, Robin. Good morning. We've got people from all across the globe, which is a pleasure as always. So I am going to rock into it. If anyone's got any questions as we're going, rock on. The reason we're doing this is, and please do follow us on Instagram, I put up 3 parts of this great unclean one that I used in a previous YouTube live when our Kickstarter campaign was ending. Please check out Mini Color. You can still late pledge. Thank you, Daryl. Good morning. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bash through very fast. I'll do an arm or something and we'll paint it pretty much like this was painted, which turned out really well and really quick. And I think people were surprised. It looks very messy at first, but a couple of steps in, suddenly things start looking pretty cool. And then it starts being really fun, which is excellent. So let's rock on. If you have any questions about wet blending as we go, please do shout them out. But we're going to be doing it rough and ready, and it's still going to turn out absolutely fine. Might have to paint. I'll do his raised arm, actually. I'll do the raised arm. His other one's got a painted hand. So let's go. So we've got Jade out. We've got Spearmint. I should put these in lines, really, shouldn't I? Take a bit of Midnight. We'll be using pretty much only a big brush, just a size 4. You could actually use a 5 or a 6 quite easily for this. It'll be absolutely fine. All right. Any questions we have as you go, please do ask. And yeah, simple. Just going to get myself arranged. Good morning, Midnight Miniatures. Ironically, we're going to be, maybe we'll not be starting with Midnight, but Midnight is on the palette, literally. So, all right, first things first is we are going to decide, good morning. We're going to decide our lighting position. I think it's quite easy for great unclean ones because I've painted a lot before, but the easiest way to imagine it, I'll put some dots down, because it won't matter now, is you just need to imagine pretty much like a line running across here. So it's like you've drawn a swirl across his face and it's across the front of his arms. That's where our highlights are going to be largely. So I'm just going to continue spreading these out. This is not super neat, and I'm using the wrong color already. I should have been using Jade there. Let's pretend that I started with Jade. It's already going smoothly. Okay, so what's important is you don't get, this is fast and loose painting. So even if you're a really precise painter, you just gotta, paint like you've had a beer or 2 or 3. Quite a lot more loose. And we're trying to suggest a place of lighting. I don't need one, buddy. We're working fast and the paint's got a decent working time. And also I'm from England. So I just, I don't feel that one's necessary for this type of work. It would literally slow me down. You know, it's one more thing to prepare. I have nothing against them, but for me, they're not super necessary. I'm going to have to use the hairdryer at some point on the subject of things going fast. So hopefully that doesn't sound too bad. All right, so can people see what has been suggested there by that placement? I actually could have used less water and it might have been helpful. Thank you. Jim, excellent question. It does not matter whether you blend light to dark or dark to light. But the thing that I would recommend is there's two things. You think about what is the biggest area, your lights or your darks. So it's the most efficient to do that first and fastest, and with the least worry about care and then fix afterwards. The other thing to consider, which might contradict what I've just said, is which paint is going to have the easiest job of covering. So often that's going to be the one that's got the most white in it. So neither of the two paints I'm using are going to have the most white in. So that's not a factor for me to consider. But if you had one that covers really easily, that can mean that that's the easiest one to get down. So it's between those two factors, I think. Biggest area, or which one's just going to kind of go down the strongest and the fastest. All right. It's here, my water. But you don't need much. I really would encourage you to think very loosely about this process. Okay, so what I've done there is I've put down a block of color. Now, this isn't going to be for wet blending, so I'm going to dry it out with a hairdryer, and then we're going to start wet blending. This could be white if you were feeling really brave. This paint is mini color. You can late pledge for it now. It was kickstarted recently. It's rather good. Okay, so having dried a little, I've got mistakes on this already. Literally doesn't matter. Yes, Midnight. This is this base is down just to help this cover black. If I'd gone over a grey model, maybe this wouldn't be necessary, but as you can see, my second coat should go down quite a bit more easily, and that is when we're going to start the wet blending. So I'm in what would be my middle color, one of my highlights or my mid-tone now, depending on how you want to word it. And we're just getting that down and making sure it's established. And now we can start bringing in our other colors. So we're just going to be doing this arm. You've got to work fast with wet blending because it literally won't work if you don't. So you're really encouraged to go quick and be pretty brave with your colors. The only thing that I'm going to try and avoid that is associated with loose painting is I don't want this like thick in terms of drifts anywhere. But even if the paint itself is literally a little bit thicker than normal, that's completely fine. Okay, so it's on top of his folds. And now we're going to start. So I've made a mix. This is Midnight. This is a strong looking color, but it's not a particularly strong paint. So what we can do is we can start pushing into our other color now. And this is the underneath section. So anywhere that is still black, anywhere that is facing downwards, these are what we want to hit with this. And this can be really loose. I'm just aiming to get everywhere, including the recesses. So this is a very, very fast part, and you should make the most of that. It's nice having to not paint in control, but we're literally going to be rewarded for not dilly-dallying and going pretty quick. And then as we go higher up the model, that's when you would start worrying about it so much. But it's literally helpful for us to go very fast now because it's going to help us control the paint drying out. We're not using any retarder or anything. Sorry if you're asking questions. I will get to them, but at this point, it's very important to go fast. So I can't pay too much attention to the screen. Right. So now we're going around 4. Size 4, Artis Opus, Series S. So we're going around and we're kind of joining the dots and filling in blanks. So areas that we want to be brighter, we can do a second coat on, but now I can blend in. So now the wet blending actually starts. Point my brush a bit, let's make it a bit more precise. There we go. And then I'm going to start kind of loosely. You can push either way. I should probably be going light to dark. You can see I'm starting to do wet blending now. Now something for you to kind of practice and get better with is just how much of what color you have on the brush for whatever highlight you were doing. So on these folds, I've gone back and I've added some more of the jade, which I'm going to need a little bit more of. I'm using quite a lot of it. Hopefully you can see it's starting pretty fast as well. It's starting to make a bit more sense. Still absolutely fine to paint in big blocks of areas. It's whatever gets the job done fastest. Now around the front here, grab some more of our jade. Hello. Should have shaken my paint more actually. You should always shake your paints a lot. Doesn't matter what brand it is, always shake them a lot. Just get the best behavior out of them. Okay, so let's start doing some around the front here. So the darker it is, the more I'm fine with it being in, like any recess. But as we can see, we've got the not fully dried paint here, and that's just going to help us blob together. Now, part of what is allowing me to be pretty loose here is the fact that I am going to do highlights over this. So if things aren't perfect, I wouldn't just try not to worry too much. You're going for like a general impression, and we're going for a general impression of lighting. It's going to be lighter on the top. But what should happen is in a couple of stages, especially when I start putting down the highlights, it should start making quite a lot of sense. And all I'm doing now is I'm looking at whether it faces upwards or not, and that is what is telling me if it is light or if it is dark. And I'm just going between two colors. So people find blending a bit scary, but instead here, it's just making it easier, right? I'm either the dark color or the light color, or I'm somewhere between. Okay, so it's starting to take shape. I mean, it doesn't matter what happens when it dries. It sounds like you're suffering from maybe you've got paint into the ferrule, and maybe are you getting paint into the ferrule, the metal bit, when you are painting? Because that would be a problem of that. One thing you can do is just use a larger brush. It's easier to not get paint in the ferrule if the bristles are longer, and they're more durable. You know, they literally are they're a tougher brush because they have more volume to them. Right, I'm going to put some dark paint in my recesses. And we're still jumping around a lot between what is dark and what is light. We're just going on the fly. But he's starting to take shape. It's a back and forth process as well. And because we're not aiming for stuff to be very clean, it's quite forgiving at this point. Okay, so we're now going to jump into a highlight color. So you can see we're pretty brave with our highlight colors with the other one. I'm just going to check if there's any bits that I've missed that normally at this stage it's that aren't light enough. So I can see on the back of his arm, some of these, they just need to be lightened. That's because they're sticking out a lot. And especially on his elbow, and here I'm going to be pretty brave. They're very bold details, so I should be bold with my painting. Cool. Starting to get there. Right, what we can do now is I might hairdry it to lock everything that we've got, but I just need to make sure that there's no obviously missed black areas in particular that look like I've forgotten to paint them, because that would kind of ruin things. I'll choose the stop point for this tutorial at least, which will be these two folds here. So these need to be painted. And what you should see is he's actually starting to show his promise now and looking quite cool. Jim, that's Jim and Robin. Thank you for finding the question that I missed. That is a very good question. Tilt your model around and see how much it's reflecting your light. If you're using paint that dries really fast, and often if it's like ultra matte, unless it's one of the fancy artist ones, they're more problematic for that. I'm using satin paint, so generally I'm having an easier time. If you've ever used oil paints before, even if it was for painting in school or something, these behave a bit closer to that, so you have a longer working time. And essentially, the length of your working time dictates whether your paints are going to be easy or hard to work with. This is why people use the paints called heavy body, like Monument Hobbies just brought out in the tubes. They've been made especially to make this type of stuff easier. They're literally thicker and they take longer to dry. And sometimes they're satin as well. Okay, so we have our promise there. I didn't manage to achieve what I wanted on the elbow because there's still some thick blue paint there. So I'm going to go in and I'm literally going to fix it with pretty bold, thick other paint. Now you could refine more than this if you wanted, but we have a very good foundation. Okay, and the section that's not even fully dry yet, we're going to bravely put some highlights down on just to prove how forgiving this is. Okay, foundation's down. Actually looking pretty cool already. His horn's kind of in the way. Yeah, no worries. So I'm going to hair dry, and then we're going to be doing like normal highlights. So no wet on wet currently, but we can bring it back anytime we want. All right, cool. So I'm about to use spearmint. This is quite a bit lighter. I'm also going to prepare ready. This is lemon. Yeah. I mean, we've got a nude Nurgle figure here instead of a nude woman. Midnight, probably not for this. I would for the base coating stage, but you need something pointy. Pointy, good quality, big brush. Like, literally, I'm using a 4. It would be preferable slightly if I was using a 5. Okay, now I'm not sure if anyone in the chat, can you make some observations about these two paints in comparison to each other? So this is spearmint and this was jade. Can you tell anything just from how this is behaving on the palette and covering the palette in particular? Is there something of note in this paint's properties in comparison to jade's? Has anyone noticed anything? No wrong questions or answers here. I'll give it a couple. I don't know how long the delay is, so I'll give it a couple more seconds. While people are having a think. That's all right. So this one's stronger. This one is a higher coverage paint because it's got more white in it. So any areas that remained showing too much of our base coat are black, we should be able to counter with it. So rather than fixing them in the previous step, we just kept this in our back pockets, knowing that we have this option. We're being pretty brave. I should probably use more of a blend. It's not strictly necessary, but one thing that will happen is that if I've got more of my previous color in the mix, any mistakes I have will just look less. It'll look more coherent. So that's yes, correct, Jim. So this is there we go. So I'm not doing this for fancy reasons using a blend. I only put a tiny bit in, it's almost arbitrary. I'm doing it to give me an easier time if I screw up and if I make a mistake. So because these two colors are more coherent together, because I've got part of the previous one in the current one, it just makes my life easier in general. My painting will look smoother, but if I make a big mistake, very importantly, it will look like a smaller mistake. And this is something that I think people completely misunderstand about blending. Blending often makes your life easier, and it means that you don't need to paint as well. And instead, people think it's scary. And that's a real shame, because they could be having an easier time painting faster with their results looking better. You know, it's like win, 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 win. You're just stacking absolute positives on top of each other, and people think that it's more complicated. Okay, are people seeing the kind of overall effect that we're going for? No? So the nice thing about the wet blending step is that we learned the model, and people, again, they underestimate the power of that. Me knowing which folds are important and which ones stick out a bit more than I thought, or which ones have a peculiar shape, like that one that I just used on his wrist. That is a useful piece of information. We learnt that very quickly in a hands-on sense while we were dashing around our model doing the wet blending. And this makes it far easier to fill in the gaps. Hey, there's a lot less pressure here than school. And your teacher is one of your peers. Even if he does have a PhD in dry brushing. Okay, coming around to the front of the model now. Now, I started on the back because it's less important. It's a good idea. You know, just practiced, got my colors right, got used to my strokes. And that should mean that now at the front, we have a little bit of an easier time. Keep turning your model. Uh-oh. Keep turning your model to get whatever is the best angle. Obviously, we haven't painted the inside of his fleshy tear, but we could pick any color to do that. Probably pick one that makes the rest of the jade look really cool. Starting to show up, right? Hey, these aren't pajamas. Or are you in pajamas? I was trying to do even coats on my airbrush. Oh, thank you, Joe Mama. You're very welcome. Dry brushing is magic. It's underrated. We did some dry brushing on this horn, and it turned out so well. That's dry brush and airbrush. All right. Are people seeing the mini kind of transform before their eyes? Hopefully they are. There's some areas that it turns out I've missed with previous steps, but because we're going loose, we just go back and add that afterwards, and it's really not a problem. Like I've got black between the fingers when it should be the deep blue. Here's a bit. So I'm going to say you can always go back and quickly wet blend. I'm just going to soften up this bit. There we go. See, easy. And all we need to do is pull that highlight in. Nice. Not as hard as you think, right? This is the major important thing. You should feel like it's okay to play around on the model. And very often when you feel like you're playing around on the model and it's kind of loosey-goosey and you're having a good time, very often that's when you'll learn something and perhaps have the most fun too. Okay, so we've got our big bright highlight section, but I want to bring focus into a particular bit of it, which is that bit across the middle, like he's being lit from the front. There's a light in front of him. Or at least that's what we're imagining. So that's literally where my light is reflecting, if you can see that, across his bicep. Wet blending is really helpful for that. Just you can, because the colors will push together, they'll do the blending for you. Or it can be particularly helpful for radically different colors, tones. All right. On the subject of radically different colors and tones, I'm going to do the step that we've done with each of our colors, which is to scoot around and see if there's anywhere that I've obviously missed. Okay. For me, that's going to be the fingers here. And I'm also going to start picking out particular details, which in this case is like wrinkles in his hand. Now, the way to think of each of your highlight steps is this is just giving a foundation for the next. You're not like this needs to look perfect. This needs to go down. So when I put my next highlight down, there's a space for it to land inside of. Finger blending. Okay, so we're taking lemon. This is strong. We're mixing it with spearmint. Now this has got a lot of white in it. Hopefully that's really clear from the palette. So we need to think pretty carefully. Which very specifically color. I'm not as good at painting skin in general of any color. I've got more experience painting pale flesh because I used to have a big elf army, but I never felt like I never felt like I'd nailed it. I'm okay at it now, but I can definitely do lots of other stuff to a higher standard than I can painting flesh tones of any creed or race. Apart from aliens, give me demons and I'm fine. Right? But if it's a realistic flesh tone, I struggle with it a bit more. Okay, this should be the like ta-da magic step. So hopefully, see these little details I'm doing here? These are bits that will be catching the light, including his pustules. All the stuff like that we should be very obviously rewarded for. Mini color. It's now live. It's been on Kickstarter very successfully, and you can now back it as a late pledge. These are paints that I was part of the design team for, along with Andy and Henry from Cult of Paint, who also have a YouTube channel. Okay, can you see the difference that these little highlights are making? This should be telling you that the thing we're painting is 3D, and also that it's very disgusting with it being notable. This isn't our final highlight, so we've got to leave room inside this for more, which is why it's still quite broad. It's very important that I get this section right because it's complicated. So in his folds, we're just going to look at the light. I'm going to tilt my light until it echoes the highlights we've already put down. Okay, it's now echoing them. And then I'm not using my brain here, I'm just copying. So I can put down a blob in the middle. See that? Okay, and then his fingers, I can just put the main point of highlight. Okay, now, see, I'm literally bracing my wrist on my model. It's important to be steady. Okay, now there's no guesswork involved. I have got paint by numbers to do. I'm holding my brush quite far away, which is making it difficult to do detailed things, but look at these catching the light as well. How cool is that? Shows the power of references. I wouldn't have thought that they would be catching the light, but now I've dotted them. Nugler's best boy. Okay. Can you see what we've started to open up here in terms of how cool this is looking? I could do some more subtle stuff here. Any round bits or sticking out bits, they are your best friend because you can highlight those and they'll tell you where the light is meant to be coming from. Get these in these cracks. Okay, and then we can fill in our blanks. So hopefully these are showing up on camera, even though it's live, and even though they're smaller sections. So now I'm taking care to paint in the shape of the model. I wasn't doing that so much before with the big previous sections, but now his highlights are following the wrinkles on his knuckles, for example. And especially if you're trying to paint fast or you're learning, this is something you can just save until the very end. And you might find that it's easier to do it right if you have to do it less. So I know that I've only got to concentrate the very last bit. Thank you, Sepic Flop. It's I'm using Mini Color, which are paints that we designed. I've been using the Teals and Jade set, and you can back it now. The Kickstarter's finished, but you can still just about squeeze in for what's called a late pledge, and you can do that on our website on artis-opus.com. All right, looking cool. I have done some grimdark models, but not always successfully. It's because it's quite a different technique for me. I found that I haven't quite like nailed it yet, and I think I just need to sit down and very rigidly follow an expert's tutorial, which is the best way to do anything. You know, use the same model as them, same paints, and that's normally what's required for me to pick up something. Hey Span, how you doing? Sent you some love hearts yesterday. All right, so we're doing like final, important, significant highlights now. So these are going to be way lighter than what we had. And these are really to tell the viewer where to look. So it's important that we approach these with care and we get them right. I'm going to do all the dots first. These are like my warm-up, so I can get used to my brush. Jim, it absolutely is. It's just the start. So just like our brushes kickstarted, and now they're all over the world, and in shops and on our website, and it shows we are planning on doing the same for Mini Color. Okay, so I think I'm ready. I'm going to do a practice stroke on my hand. This is quite a lot lighter, so I've got to put this in the very middle of where I want my highlights, because if it goes wrong, I need to be able to cover it up, basically. So we're going to be a little bit brave. And this is we're literally trying to suggest that there is light shining off putrid flesh here, so I think that's working. You're not being ignorant. No, it is from Warhammer by Games Workshop. So it's either for Warhammer 40k or Warhammer Age of Sigmar, their fantasy or their sci-fi games. I know it doesn't look like a Space Marine, but it's from one of the gods of chaos, the god of plague in the game of Warhammer. Hey, that's probably the first time I've ever answered a fluff question competently. Hey, lazy. So that's remarkable. Normally I'm not a background guy, but I know about these. Okay, looking pretty cool. So we need to just fade out these highlights a bit so they're not quite so blocky. It's fine if they are blocky on wrinkles, but we're just doing those now, so we need to be careful. Still using a big brush, by the way, and it's absolutely fine to use a big brush. Turn my model to whatever angle helps the most. Still gotta, this is why having our little guidelines is useful, because when you turn it upside down, which might make your painting easier, it's very easy to forget what way is up. But if we've already painted our guidelines in, we will help ourselves out a lot. Cool. Look at that. I would suggest, lazy, I would suggest not using a wet palette. Because you might be putting too much water into your paint. I would use satin paints with a decent drying time like ours. High quality paints, don't use bad ones. And yeah, I would put the water in yourself if you need it, rather than have all of them be wet. That's what's helped me. All right, look at that, pretty cool. So there's definitely some areas that we could highlight a bit more to suggest that they're catching the light. But I would say that has been pretty successful in the time that we have available to us. And it's a quick wet blending base. And then, I mean, we were only really careful at the end with the highlight. So it's just highlights using sensible colors in the right order, I would say. One thing that's important is to really put down big waves of highlights or layers until you're at the very end when you need to shrink them. People often go too small too fast and it looks a bit extreme. Thank you, Spen. How many hours would you put into a model like this? If I wasn't on stream and explaining, I guess I could do all of his flesh in 90 minutes or 2 hours. I could do things more efficiently as well, so I could spray him with gray from above at the beginning, and that would make it easier to know, or from the from the angle of my highlights, that would make it easier to know where to highlight him, and it would make the colors go down stronger and brighter with less time needed. So a couple of hours. I've painted this model a few times before, and Spen's done some reps in his time. Spen in the chat, he could probably attest to how much it helps to have literally painted the same model before. So, there's a reason that I've picked this one on stream. It's because I know him well. So, if you're painting a model that's brand new to you, you probably need to go a bit slower. I would suggest taking in total about 4 or 5 hours, up to 8 if you really want to take your time doing something like this. Have you got kids, Aztec? I'm not being nosy. I'm going to give you a good answer to your question, or perhaps some useful advice. What makes you have to leave? Yeah, exactly, Spen. Like, I've painted this guy before, and just the knowledge that it will be okay. It's going to be okay. Even that is very, very useful. They're also tabletop games. Okay, Aztec, yeah, maybe a wet palette, buddy. I mean, it doesn't. Your main issue. So I'm going to give you a suggestion. Just when you're doing this, instead of painting an arm, you paint the hand, and you do that to completion. And then whatever calls you away, you pause that for 5 minutes if needed. So you finished your hand, and then you work on the front of his arm, and then you work on the back of his arm. So what you should do is break your painting down into smaller blocks. Literally, like I paint his foot, I paint his ankle, I paint his knee, I paint his butt. That will help you, and that's what you need to do to make this fit with your lifestyle and your obligations. It's either that or you paint at midnight. you know, you got to find a way to make it fit. Spen's just had a kitty; he'll know. Yeah, everyone approaches this a different way. Right, I'm going to quickly. So I've still got midnight on my palette. I'm going to show you how to put shades back in. And this will be done loose, and this is kind of loose glazing. Probably a little bit. I'll show you the consistency. It's a bit heavier than a glaze, but anywhere that we've obscured that we didn't mean to, we can get it now. And we can fix mistakes with our fingers. Okay, so I can paint the underneath of areas. And I can also smooth out any mistakes that we had. So this is serving multiple purposes. Can make sure I get it from the right angle, so I'm always trying to paint from like what is underneath. But when you find that, it gets quite a bit easier. And this is going to make all my folds look more round. And then areas that I've missed that shouldn't be pure black, this allows me to catch them too. And we had some between his fingers. It's using my finger here. It's easier than you think, and you don't need to be as fussy as you would think either. Because he's looking pretty cool. Imagine if the entire model was done like that. Are the fine lines here, or are you asking in general? Jim, I'll show you. I'll do a final highlight, and I'll tell you how I'm setting up my brush. Okay, I'm using a huge brush. I'm using a 4. I'm actually going to give this a little bit of a clean because it's done some heavy work. So if there has been paint getting towards the bottom, I'm just going to try and clear that away and get it out the brush. I don't know where my soap is. We have lost my soap. Got it. Okay, so I'm going to quickly clean my brush. This will help. I'm using a high quality brush, so it can just deal with abuse better than a low quality brush. This is already over a year old, and it's my current favorite brush, so it's worth me putting some time into keeping it in good condition. Let me show you. So you can see, even though it's done really heavy work, because I've rinsed it regularly, there's not much to get out of there. Our soap's really soft, by the way, so it helps. And now I've got a slightly wet brush. I've licked it to take off some of the moisture. You could use paper towel though. I take some of my paint, make my mix. Now you need unless you're trying to like glaze it down or something, you need your paint to be not too weak for this stage, so I don't want too much water involved. Now, very importantly, I mean, if you're not using a good brush, you are just going to struggle. No worries. Someone with only one vowel in their name. RCKY, my pleasure. Okay, so we're now going to turn the brush around, and I'm going to do some practice strokes, normally on my thumb, but you can do them anywhere. All right, that's a fat line, that's a fat line, that's a fat line. That is a thinner line. This is the side that the brush wants to do thin lines from. You can help yourself not forget what side this is by looking at the text. My text should be pointing away from me. And now with that knowledge, I go to my model, I take a practice stroke, find that thin line zone again, and then I brace off the model and my wrists are on my desk. And that's how we can do fine lines. The bracing is very important. If you're not using a model holder, I'll show you mine in a second. They definitely help a lot. By the way, these should not be landing anywhere that hasn't already been highlighted. There we go. So I'm going to pick out knuckles. Text facing away from me still. You're probably overloading your brush. That's the most common. You know, too much paint on it and paint's not only at the tip, which is where it should be for this type of controlled work. So much harder for me to paint when I don't have somewhere to brace off, so bracing the model is very important. Like I said, I'll show you my holder in a second. Okay, cool. It's normally brush loading and just position, you know, like literally like your posture when you're painting. My wrists are completely braced and then I'm more firm than I look. Hey, no worries, Marcin. Oh, lovely. I mean, Rotigus is just amazing. Right, here is my egg. Okay, so we make these as a painting handle, and this helps me get whatever angle I need to do whatever detail, and I'm super steady when I'm doing it. So if I need to do really precise edge highlighting, I'm doing it and I'm braced properly off the model, right? Always off my pinky like this to exaggerate, and then off my ring finger, and then off my middle finger, and then off my index finger. So there is no floating anything, it's just all crunched up. You can do either, but I'm using quite opaque paint. If I was using semi-transparent paint like I was at the beginning, you could do it by repeating, but I've been adding more, and I've been adding in warm highlights. This is Lemon from our range, mini color. It's now on late pledge available from Kickstarter. Warhammer. Okay, so this is where we're at. Can I put a link in the chat? YouTube's live is a terrible, terrible format. See what I can do. I can start a poll or a Q&A. I can filter chat. I don't even know how to put anything into my chat. I'm sorry, guys. You can chat with me, it seems, but you know, this is technology. Are you satin always? Fantastic question, Righteous Coder. I always use Chaos Black. Even if I'm going to make my model white with an airbrush or with something else, I always start with Chaos Black. He's looking pretty cool, isn't he? So obviously what we did on the front, we could do on the back. I think I used the spearmint better on my previous one. But we've managed to match pretty well. Robin, was that here or was that on Instagram? I'm sorry for my incompetence. How do we do? Like, quick share, WhatsApp. I can share that I'm doing this on YouTube and other formats. Ah, okay, good. It's not me imagining things then. Thank you for trying to help though. Right, yeah, this looks great. If you guys painted to this standard, you could win Best Painted at a tournament. It's easy. It literally is. And like, nowhere are you going to see obsessively smooth highlights on this model. And it would work super well in badly lit environments. Yeah, thank you. So because it's a very textured model, And because we started from the same color and we kept our proportions the same, so we used a lot of jade, like jade covered a lot of the model, it's quite easy for things to match. Now you can see that I haven't finished the highlighting here, and this don't look like they match. This section and this section, you add the highlights, it'd work. It'd just look like this. So like this is a helpful model for it, but you don't need to worry about the color matching aspect quite as much at all. General tips for this, by the way, some people do or don't like sub-assemblies. For this model, if you're looking to paint his belly well, you're going to have this section be in shadow, especially if you're looking to paint it fast, because it's just so difficult to get access from the right angle. So I would suggest having it dark, or he joins at the wrist, just leave the arm off. Thank you. We really appreciate that. There'll be a lot of Kickstarter exclusive branding and stuff to thank you for your support. Okay. Is there anything else that people would like to see? I'm going to paint his toenails because it's annoying me that they're not painted. Well, given that he's got 4 different color schemes on him, I guess I can paint over them, especially with layering. I don't want to do like 4 stages of dry brushing in the same area. He's already been reprimed actually, which if I can be a bit arrogant for a second, shows how good quality and smooth my dry brushing is in our paints. But yeah, I could layer like this over all of him and it would look pretty cool. This is a very good example. There is a reason that I chose to do it for today's tutorial. So just going to put these nails in because I think until they're done, we can't really see how cool his foot could look. Oops. I think I want them to be a bit colder than that. I'm going to use olive instead. This has a tiny bit of green in it, but I'm also going to add a little bit of jade. Chris asks, what a fantastic question. I would suggest you pick up a 00 and you try and use it as little as possible, and a size 4, or if that sounds too big for you, a size 3. I'm using a size 4, and the size 4 is capable of doing very, very crazily small highlights and lines. You'd be really surprised. It's wonderful, and the big ones last a really long time as well. So I think that's a very good reason to use them. Great question, thank you. And you're about to really, really enjoy painting. So you can see here, I'm taking a bit of the jade, which is our like universal color that's been everywhere so far. I've added that into our brown. Hey, Robin, good man. Was it me that talked you up? If so, well done me. All right, let's get his nails. So this is going to look brown in comparison to what's around him because everything else is green-blue, but we have put jade inside the paint. And this means that we can simply just add like an ivory or something to go up for the highlights. And now they look more coherent. So really simple there. I could actually just go, screw it. We've already got our lemon out. Look at that color. How cool is that? It's like a cold blue, green, gray, everything. Hey, you should, Marcin. It's fun and it looks good and it's fast and you will learn something painting like this. I think maybe if I should lean into the lines to make these nails look older, or I should have dry brushed them. So I'm gonna have to lean into the lines. Do people have any more questions while I am still here about what we've done about mini color, about our brushes, about anything. So getting to harder detail for me to do in front of the camera now, positionally. Hopefully you can see what is going on. See how heavily I'm bracing off it? I definitely neglected the details on his feet. Can people see how cool those colors look? Tiny bit more. We can go for up to really bright. Yeah. Bigger palettes are better, period. This protects my desk as well. So this is the texture palette that I'm largely responsible for bringing to the industry. Been using one for years, and it's our extra large one. So it's roughly A3. It's a tiny bit smaller than A3, and it's just where I test and clean my brushes and I experiment. And it's very useful to have a non-consequent place for you to do testing. You should have somewhere where making mistakes is like literally encouraged. It will help you paint better. I think I went too far or too opaque. Or I should have saved these for doing off camera. It's okay though. Yeah, go for it, Martin. Ah, Dewey, thank you very much. And hello in Australia. We have a great deal of love for you guys who are often neglected, but are a significant part of the hobby community. One of the reasons to do morning streams, actually. It's nice to catch people from Australia and New Zealand. I'm just going to fix his foot because I'm here. Okay. You're new here. Are you saying that I sound like Mr. Superman? I'll take that. It's a nice way to start my day. I'm not quite so handsome. Not by a long shot. Hey, New Zealand. Yeah, the UK does. The UK is mecca for wargaming. We're so densely populated that even countries that have more wargamers, like America, we are packed together, and we've got Warhammer World in the middle, literally like our mecca for our religion of toys. So yeah, it's a strong community. If you're a gamer as well, you can do events pretty much every single weekend all over the country for Old World, for 40k, for Fantasy, Age of Sigmar rather. So yeah, it's we are densely nerdy as far as Warhammer goes. Everything's close to Nottingham as well. Unless you live at the very top or the very bottom of the country, you can be in Nottingham at the home of Warhammer very, very quickly. Marcin, you don't have to worry about that. It's just really easy to notice when the hairs fall out because they're white. But unless your brush starts feeling different, honestly, it could do that for the next 3 years. You're more likely to wear through your bristles by height, like wear it out like a pair of shoes that you've worn a lot, than to suffer any problems as a result of a few bristles coming out. You just notice it a lot more with the dry brushes. They have a ton of very fine hairs in them, so losing a few each session is fine. It happens less and less as you use the brush more and more as well, so you're all good. It's just part of dry brushing. Just remember to blow them off so they don't get stuck on your model. I just remembered something I did on this model that I didn't do on the other model. I did underpainting. You see that I've gone in here with a white to make it easier for our colors to go over it. So yeah, I should have remembered that. Silly. That's okay. I'll use my white underpainting now. See how much easier it made it to get colour down in those areas. Hopefully this has been useful for you. I'm probably going to wind up pretty soon, so yeah, if there's anything you would like to ask, please get it in while I am still here and available. It is a pilgrimage. It absolutely is. So our holy quest and rite of going to Warhammer World and waiting too long for food and bugmans. Fill in some gaps now, just dotting around the model. Not anything that we should be worrying about too much, but just trying to, my light's telling me what to do because my paints are satin. It's like, are you reflecting the light? Yes, you need a highlight if you don't have one. So this is going to help me fill in the gaps and just make things look more realistic. Again, I'm constantly turning around the model just to get the angles correct. This one's been missed, like fully. I probably need a couple of goes on that. I think that's just you, Jim. Everyone's got their own things to have nightmares about. Mine are normally very normal day scenarios, but with a boringly weird twist. Like I have to walk to work down the motorway or something. Okay. See, I'm just filling in gaps here, not even caring about going, because I'm using transparent paint, I can go over other paint and I will benefit from whatever was there. So it's quite helpful. Repeat in that section that's just far too dark. I'm barely diluting my paint either. It's just not needed here. We're trying to cover over black, so it's fine to be a bit heavier. Andrew, this model. Literally this model. Buy one of these, prime it Chaos Black. It is perfect for dry brushing and follow our tutorials. You could do it only with 3 colors as well. You could do it with a dark blue, a mid green, and then you would just add an ice yellow to the mid green for highlights like here, and it'll go brilliantly. It's literally perfect because it's so textured. Kind of mistakes will get a bit lost in the texture. It's very helpful. Literally just filling in gaps here. This is how forgiving and easy it is. Got a bit. What is that? Come on. It is cool. Hi, buddy. So, if anyone's late, we are going to wind things up here. So I'll take any last questions. But we've been putting down some wet blending, and then we just did some highlights, but we followed guidelines that we put down from the very beginning in our wet blending, and that made it easier to get things in the right place. So it's literally been kind of paint by numbers. It's like using a stencil, but we make the stencil. And it is so much less difficult than people think. And it's more fun. It's more chill. All right. I'm probably going to call it there. Thank you very much for joining. Mini Color, the paints that I've been using are available. We kickstarted them very successfully. So there was nearly 2,200 backers. There is over. In fact, I know there is over 2,200 backers now. You can still late pledge to get in on the Kickstarter. All the paints you can see behind me, they're from Minicolor. I have been using 4 of our colors only. That's all we've needed. We've used Midnight, which has lower coverage, but it's a super deep, cool blue. And then we've used Jade, which is like middle coverage in a middle color. We put this over a lot of the model. No worries, Andrew. We then use Spearmint. It's got a bit more white in it, and it's a much lighter color. It's also a bit more green. And then shrinking the areas a lot more, we've carefully added in our Lemon, which is an icy yellow. No worries, my absolute pleasure. So we've only used these 4, and we've got this cool looking effect. And it's, hopefully you've seen it's easier than you'd think. Not something to be worried about. But yeah, if you're interested in these paints, check out the Kickstarter. Still going now. Just search for Minicolor. And yeah, thank you very much for joining. That is the name, Minicolor, like this. Thank you, Wirehead. Hey, Dewey, you will love them. Thank you for your support. Thank you, Jason. I'm going to continue doing these intermittently. I'm going away soon, but I'm going to see if I can. I think it's quite a cool challenge. I'm going to take away some paints with me, like literally in my suitcase, and a travel lamp and a bendy arm, and we're going to do some painting while I'm in a hotel room. And I think that will show you that you don't need loads of equipment. You just need a few of the right things and the right approach, and you can have, a really easy time getting still effective and cool results. I'm not going to paint an army while I'm away, but I'll paint some useful stuff. Hey, no worries, Jim. All good. Well, my coffee's gone. That's perfect timing. Have a lovely day. Good evening if you're on the other side of the world. Yeah, literally, I could try painting from the beach, right? It's a strange one. Just to show the diversity of the range, this is a tutorial that I put up a little while ago. We've got highlights in the recesses here. We're trying to do shiny leather, and this has used our warm brown set, which is exquisite. We used chocolate, mahogany, and we used jasper and auburn. Really, really, really good colors. Turned out super well. We've got a lot of variety in there. We've got fantastic reds. My favorite color in the entire set is called Gherkin. I'll quickly flick through the book because rather than taking my word for it, I can show you how cool the colors are. So some of the warm browns, it's Midnight that we were using, some of the deep reds, Claret and Sangria. Claret's one of my favorite colors too. Here's the reds. All of the 6 reds that we have available. There's Gherkin, which I said was my favorite, highlighted with Marigold, which is a really warm, orangey, beautiful egg yolk yellow. Warm browns again. They are that good. Absolutely dewy. Cold browns. Cappuccino. Absolute favorite. It's in my top 5 too. And then you've got some mixing here. Midnight mixed with peat, which is the darkest from the cold browns. You can make such a cool, like, oceany blue. And I think that is it, apart from our highlights, our pastel colors. So I have been using lemon here, but we've also got warm light. We've got stone as well, which is at the bottom of the cool browns. It's a bit more neutral. And when the Kickstarter is fulfilled, minicolor.com is going to be a resource for everything. So all the type of information I've been giving you, yeah, Gherkin's wonderful. Gherkin's what's been used to highlight on top of here. We're going to have all the information you could need about every single color, including pairings and suggestions in tutorials, like how to do Blood Angels with our red or whatever, on minicolor.com. So you'll be very, very well looked after. And here is the carry case that I'm hoping to come out soon. All right, then. Thank you very much for joining. Please check out the Kickstarter and have a lovely day. Thank you for all your questions as well. Really appreciate it.